my darling viewers, it's Jen here at Check Her Joy, and this time I'm reviewing Supreme Courtship by Christopher Buckley. This is a adult political fiction novel. It focuses around a president that gets really mad at Congress, who is like vetoing everything they want, including his previous two Supreme Court nominees, who were like excellently qualified. And they were like nitpicking. Like one of them got excluded because of a book review he wrote in elementary school, where he said the movie To Kill a Mockingbird is boring at times, and so they tore him apart and wouldn't nominate him for that reason. Like otherwise, perfectly spot on, nothing wrong, no major scandals or anything. So the president gets really pissed at Congress and decides to nominate a television star, one of those TV judges, and nominates her for the Supreme Court. So there is a lot of political fighting in this book. The president's approval rating is really low. It's in like the low 20s. Like he's like, hey, I've got double digits at least. But he is not there trying to run for re-election. He is there trying to cut Congress's spending. So every time they send him a bill that has money being funneled to like their districts, he's like, no, that's not necessary. We aren't doing that. And so Congress is pissed at him. Also, the head of the Senate Judiciary Committee, the one who has to first approve and vet the Supreme Court nominees, he wants the job. He goes up to the president and is like, hey, I would like to be a Supreme Court justice, and then is vetoing the other justices just so he can get the job. And the president's like, no, I am not doing this. You are not going to be my Supreme Court justice. So the president is flipping channels, and he runs across this television show called Courtroom 6, where Judge Pepper Cartwright is presiding and ruling on, civil matters, domestic disputes, that kind of stuff. And he's like, I like this girl's spunk. Plus, she's pretty easy on the eyes, and it'll piss off Congress. So he calls in Pepper and convinces her to let him nominate her for the Supreme Court. And there's an entire battle ensuing about whether or not she's qualified. She is technically a judge. She has a law degree. She has served in state, senates and stuff. But she's not currently serving as an official judge because it's, reality TV. People have to sign waivers. The nation loves her television show so much that she has the people's support. And so there's this battle between the president trying to nominate her for the Supreme Court and whether or not Congress is actually going to do it. So it's probably not too surprising that she does actually get nominated, because either she does actually get nominated and becomes a Supreme Court justice. I don't think that's too spoilery. So the other half of this book is when she gets on the Supreme Court and how surprising it is to her. Like, she's been a judge before, but to serve on the Supreme Court with all the super smart, intelligent justices who throw around Latin phrases and cite obscure cases, and she's like, I'm a little out of practice for this. So it's fun to watch Pepper kind of struggle. Like, she's a really likable character. I love Pepper. She's down to earth. She's this Texan who carries a gun, and she passes these no-nonsense kind of rulings, and she's awesome. The president, I also kind of get the trying to take a stand and say no to Congress, and he's awesome. And then the congressmen and all of Congress just kind of annoying as a whole, especially Mitchell, who is the head of the Judiciary Committee, and he decides he's going to get back at the president by trying to pass an amendment to the Constitution prohibiting the president from serving a second term. All presidential terms are now going to be set at one term. Which kind of annoys me. I'm just like, maybe Congress needs a congressional term limit, honestly. So it should be pointed out this book was written in 2008, 10 years ago, back when it seemed absurd that a reality TV star could serve on the federal government. Oh, those good old days. This book is pretty funny and humorous and light at times, but it definitely has some serious political stuff going on in here. So if you love the intrigue and stuff, but it's not too weighted down, because it's the Supreme Court, there are tons and tons of old cases being referenced and stuff, and there are tons of footnotes explaining what those cases are, usually in a bit of satirical, mocking style. The whole tone of this book is pretty light, which I super appreciated, and made for a really quick read. It's also interesting seeing all the relationship stuff going on, not only between like the dynamics of the Supreme Court and also like the Congress, Supreme Court, and the president, like all fighting and stuff. But the personal level stuff is cool too. So, like this, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, they just legalized gay marriage, and then his wife leaves him for a woman, and obviously that didn't go well for him, and he's having a bit of a breakdown. We also have Pepper and her husband are kind of having some difficulties. Pepper's husband is not 100% on board with her leaving the television show that he created so that she can be in the Supreme Court. He's like, hey, my television show and its ratings are important, and I don't want to move to Washington. I would like to stay here in New York making television shows. So their relationship's a bit rocky. There's also other characters are having problems with their marriages and relationships. There's not really a strong romantic plot line in this book, although there kind of is with the marriage stuff happening. But it's not like a typical romance where like they meet and have this adorable meet cute and are madly in love. Pepper is an incredibly attractive woman, and basically every guy who sees her is at least attracted to her, if not actually hitting on her. It's kind of weird times. So basically this book has two parts to it, even though it isn't actually set up that way. There's kind of the Pepper being nominated part, which was really awesome, and I enjoyed that plot line. And then there's the second half of the book where she is actually on the Supreme Court and ruling cases, and that part got less interesting and a little bit drier. It was kind of cool when we first see her on the court and like her first case, but the longer the book goes on, the more I'm like, okay, are we done yet? Definitely the first half of this book went a lot faster than the second half. I liked Pepper as a character. The president and his advisors are fun. There is a suitable bad guy in Mitchell and his ulterior motives and trying to run for office and hold high, positions just for the sake of holding high positions rather than actually caring about stuff. Whereas you can tell that the president actually deeply cares about this stuff, and Pepper is trying to understand everything so that she can, be fair. The book is a bit interesting looking back on it because it was written 10 years ago in 2008 when it was slightly ridiculous to have a reality TV star holding federal office like this. Some of this book just made me cringe and sad because it seems like a much simpler political time than our current situations. Like, it's escapism from today's politics, just in the fact that, man, I wish politics were this straightforward now, which is pretty sad. So this is pretty much actually pretty tame compared to what actually is happening in politics currently in 2018. So on the whole, I gave this book 3 stars. I recommend it if you're interested in politics or the Supreme Court. It's actually refreshing to see a political book about the Supreme Court. Usually it's the president or Congress. So yay, Supreme Court getting reps. Yeah, so if you guys are interested in that kind of stuff, I recommend it. It's a relatively fast read, and I did enjoy it, so it got 3 stars that from me, like pretty standard. I'm not madly in love with it, though. I'm glad I got it at the library. Peace out. I love you guys, and keep reading. Bye!